It was another Friday night, and we're looking forward to it. We take our time to unwind, distress, relax, and share experience with each other. I remember telling my friends that I couldn't wait to role play with my significant other to spice things up in our relationship. One of my friends said to enjoy it while it lasts because she said, and I quote, when you are married or in a long-term relationship, intimacy does fade. Why does intimacy fade in a long-term relationship? Hello, beautiful people. This is Resonate with Tammy podcast, sending you warm greetings. Today, we're going to talk about why intimacy fades in long-term relationship. Joining me to discuss this wonderful topic is my lovely guest sister from another mother, Sandra. She's an IT project manager working and living in the bustling city of Toronto, Canada. She's here to share some wisdom about relationship and how to navigate intimacy issues in midst of work, family life, and relationship. Hello, Sandra. Welcome to Resonate with Tammy podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hello to everyone listening. I'm excited to be here on the Resonate with Tammy podcast today. And as Tammy said, my name is Sandra, and today I'll be sharing some tidbits about intimacy from my very limited knowledge. And that's a disclaimer I want to give that I'm not a psychologist, a counselor, or a relationship expert. The opinions I'm expressing today are mine, and they have been formed over the years from mine and other people's experiences. Mostly what I'll be talking about today are things that people have told me or I've been in a conversation with others and have heard. So yeah, so just based on my limited knowledge, I just had to say that as well. But I'm so glad to be on the show today.
So glad to have you, Sandra. So let's do a little housekeeping. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share Resonate with Tammy on Spotify and YouTube. Also, please turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified once I upload a new content. What is intimacy in relationship? Now, according to Wikipedia, intimacy in relationship is a feeling of being close and emotionally connected and supported. It means being able to share a whole range of thoughts, feelings, and experience that we have as human beings. It is important to have these four types of intimacy in relationship. They are emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. There's a saying that goes thus: familiarity breeds contempt. It is said that over time, couples may fall into predictive patterns, which leads to a decrease in novelty and excitement. I don't know if you saw, there's a story that was trending online, standard of a Nigerian lady that got up around 4:50 a.m. to prepare food for her husband because he told her that he was going to eat his female colleague's lunch, and she had to wake up around that time to avoid stories that touch. I don't know if you heard that story. So Sandra, on that note, do you agree that intimacy can fade in a long-term relationship? What are your thoughts? Let me hear.
Well, yes, I heard about the story actually, and I mean, to each his own. If she wanted to wake up by 4:50 a.m., she will. But I must point out that it's not what you do that actually keeps somebody else in a relationship. They have to make a decision that they want to be there or not, and that's one of the things I want to point out today, that for a relationship to work, both people in the relationship have to be intentional about the fact that they want the relationship to work. And just going back to your question, yes, I agree that intimacy can fade in a long-term relationship because when you first meet somebody, you guys are in sync, there is something new and all of that. So people they're really excited about the beginning of a relationship. So if the parties are involved are not intentional, as I said, about maintaining a healthy and thriving relationship, it might fall apart after a few years. There are people who have been together for years and still maintain a healthy intimacy level, and there are others that have been together for just a short time and find it difficult to be together or to be intimate.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of this podcast today, I'm going to be defining intimacy as, first of all, sexual attraction. So before you even get into the relationship, the act of sex during the relationship, and also spending time with your partner, spouse, or significant other. So I'm not just likening intimacy to just be sex. Intimacy is just more than sex. And for me, I feel like there are differences in how people understand and navigate intimacy in their relationships. So men and women respond differently when it comes to intimacy, and every individual is different. For some people, they might understand intimacy to be just spending time together. You can, share your thoughts on the book that both of you have read, movies, traveling, storytelling, all of that. Much more than just the actual act itself. And for others, is if it doesn't involve the actual act itself, then it's not really intimacy. So people judge what intimacy is differently. And the second thing I want to point out as well in terms of this question is that intimacy is directly proportional to communication and trust. So any break in communication or trust negatively impacts intimacy. So for example, if you have a couple that's having a multi-day quarrel or argument, they are less likely to be intimate. Or a couple who have experienced infidelity are even less likely to be amenable to even the discussion about intimacy. So yes, different factors can affect intimacy in the long run. So I agree that yes, intimacy can be affected in the long run.
Okay. So what factors contribute to the initial spark of intimacy in a relationship? What are the factors that contribute to it?
Well, like every human being, people like new and shiny things. So the novelty of something new, the fact that you're entering into a new relationship, is very nice. There's some comedy skits you see online. They'll be like, at the beginning of the relationship, you guys will talk for hours. You want to hear each other's voices.
Yeah.
You remember to say good night every single night.
Yeah, I love
you drop the phone. No, you so just that novelty of something new. But then when you get to know the person, their little idiosyncrasies and all of that, it might not be so cute anymore. And for some people, they feel like, oh, I already know you, I already have you. So what's the point of doing all of that? So that's where the being intentional comes into play. So the factors that can contribute to the initial spark of intimacy in a relationship can be, number one, the novelty of something new. Number two is like it's you have shared interests. So you find that maybe you go somewhere, for instance, and you notice that there's someone who is talking a lot about traveling, for instance. They like to go places, and you feel like, this person might be someone I might have something in common with, and that sparks that initial interest, or the initial spark of intimacy in the relationship. You feel like this is somebody that you might have a shared interest with. Another factor can be just physical attraction. You see someone, of course, that's where most relationships start, if we're telling each other the truth. Most relationships start from a physical attraction. You see someone and you feel like, this baby's fine, or this guy is really hot, or whatever, and then you feel like, okay, that's the initial spark, and that chemistry is there. For some people, it might be just contributing to the trust and vulnerability that you feel in front of someone that might contribute to building that intimacy at the initial stages. So when we say the initial spark of intimacy, it might not just be the first meeting. It might be like the first 2, 3, 4 meetings that you've had with this person, and you now notice that I can be vulnerable with this person without feeling any kind of judgment. I can trust this person because of the value system that I feel like this person represents. So when someone also fits the persona or image that you've built in your head about what you want your ideal partner to look like at the beginning, it might just spark that initial spark of intimacy may be there based on the person fitting the persona that you've created in your head. When you get to know the person, it might be a different thing, but initially, the person might fit that image in your head. So yeah, I think that's what contributes to it.
Okay. That's interesting. One of my colleagues said that it is so natural for intimacy to fade in marriage. He said managing daily stressors such as work, finances, and family obligation can leave couples feel emotionally drained and less inclined to prioritize intimacy. He added that he cannot be thinking of romance while he has bills to pay. It will not work. He said it can't work. The romance will just die. So my question is, in your point of view, how do external stressors and life changes impact intimacy levels?
More like everybody is so busy. Like there's just so much happening. If you're so I'm in Canada right now, and you can imagine some people have 2 to 3 jobs because they just want to pay the bills and make ends meet. And if you have just a chaotic lifestyle, having to think about how to take time out to be intimate with your partner can be a challenge. And I still go back to my point again, be intentional about it, because there are people who are working, both working, they come back, they make it intentional for them to spend time together. They have a calendar, they make plans, they ensure they have time away from the kids if they have kids. If they're staying in different households, they try as much as possible to try to spend time together over the weekend. So you have to be intentional about it. But yes, external stressors and life changes can impact intimacy levels. So this gentleman that you're talking about is right and wrong. So changes can occur in different aspects of life. It can be medical challenges, it can be loss of a job or work stress. It can be the kids, like having kids and a woman having to take care of, or a man having to take care of little kids. Kids need our attention until they are even 18. It can be moving to a new country. A lot of people are jackpotting right now. They're moving to new countries, they're starting new lives. And it can be very difficult. It can be death of a loved one. It can be financial difficulties. All of this can contribute to how stressed people can be. And these are external stressors that can impact not just our intimacy level, but communication level and all of that. So when individuals are preoccupied with external stressors, they may have less energy and emotional availability to invest in their relationship. So this can lead to a decline in intimacy levels. So just as an example, if you live in Lagos, Nigeria, can you imagine leaving your house at 4 a.m., entering Lagos traffic? So this gentleman that had his wife cook the food at 4:50 a.m., imagine he had to leave work at that time. They even had time to have a conversation. So that means they were being very intentional about their relationship for him to even gist about it. You leave your house at 4 a.m., you enter the Lagos traffic, you walk with a horrible boss, or you work in unfair conditions, you enter that traffic again at 5 p.m., and you return to your house at 10 p.m. for 5 days a week. That's what you want to do on Saturdays or Sundays. You just want to sleep. So, but the thing is, as I said, successful couples have navigated these same terrains, and they'll tell you that it takes work, but they're very intentional about it. If you can excuse me for a little bit to be academic, I know that I said that this is not my area of expertise. I'm just going by what I've heard, what I've seen, what I've experienced, what other people have told me, and what I've heard in conversations before. But if you just excuse me a little bit to be academic for a moment, in my opinion, what causes intimacy issues in relationships, I feel like I want to categorize into three. So the first I'll say is medical and health. So, medical conditions like impotence, frigidity, hormonal issues, side effects of medication, and others that are too numerous to mention. So, some of these medical and health issues can cause people not to respond very well to intimacy. There are stories of how medical conditions have affected people in this area of their lives. So that's one. And for these, some of them can be cured and others no. But if you find yourself in this condition, what I recommend is for you to seek some kind of counseling or go to a doctor. Doctors are not only for curing medical conditions, there are doctors as well that can help you in counseling to know how to navigate issues that affect you sexually when it comes to anything medical. So you can seek for help in that regard as well. So if you find yourself in this condition, seek for help. The second category is behavioral and mental. So under this category, you can find the wahala issues. People that are carrying demons from past relationships that they haven't healed from. In some people's past relationships, they weren't kissing. Some people, there are relationships that people don't like that level of intimacy. So, okay, there are different love languages. You have words of affirmation, you have acts of service, you have receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch, right? So people express their love in different ways. In fact, for some people like me, a combination of all of them. So you can imagine you're with someone whose love language is physical touch, and you just go straight to doing the do. That's a recipe for disaster. I'll give you an example. Somebody I know told me she knows another couple who don't kiss because he feels there are germs in people's mouths. So he's a germaphobe. So he doesn't French kiss his wife. He just pecks her on the cheek, on the forehead, and all of that. So the whole marriage, the whole years they've been married, she can count on her one hand how many times they've actually French kissed. So the woman is frustrated because this is something she likes. So it's now a problem because it's a source of quarrel. It's like there's no foreplay in this relationship. How come we don't do any foreplay? You just go straight and you do. I'm not, and I don't, climax most of the time. So it's an issue. It's a recurring issue. So there are women that are suffering in silence when it comes to things like this. So, that's the second one. So that's an example I can give. The third category, Tammy, is spiritual. Some people are just psychopaths and sociopaths, honestly.
Spiritual ones.
Punishment. No, it's spiritual, honestly, because they use sex as punishment. And I have to say here categorically that if you withhold intimacy from your partner because you're not getting something like cash or other favors, you're suffering from witchcraft. You need to be delivered. I'm sorry. And I didn't add these people under category 2 because they're just wicked people, So under the spiritual category as well, you have people that are unrepentant and continuous, that they do unrepentant and continuous infidelity. They find it difficult to like some people have spiritual problems from their village and they have no self-control, they have no discipline. And they have, in fact, they just have the misfortune of meeting people who are quiet and people who have the value system that they want to be in a monogamous relationship and be, loyal to this person and not. So how they just find a way of meeting people that are loyal. So you can imagine being in such a relationship. It's definitely going to impact the intimacy levels. All of these are stressors, honestly, that affect intimacy in relationships. So that's all I have to say about it.
I think in every relationship, communication is key. Yeah, so what role does communication play in maintaining intimacy in long-term relationships?
Yeah, so communication is important, not just for intimacy, but it's important for every aspect of the relationship, including finance, kids, and everything. Intimacy comes from trust. That's what people have to understand. I have to trust you to be intimate with you, especially coming from a woman's perspective. I don't know about men. I hear that sometimes men can be intimate with people and they don't necessarily have to have any kind of emotional attachment to them. I don't know if that's actually true, but from a woman's I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, and I feel like intimacy comes from trust, and any break of trust may lead to a reduction in intimacy. It's very important to communicate what you like in the bedroom. So that communication is important because we're talking about intimacy in terms of, before the act, during the act, and after the act. So it's very important to communicate what you actually like. We've had issues where people, as I said in the last example, the man doesn't like kissing, he just pecks on the head and on the cheek. It's important to tell the lady when just chip it in during conversation at the beginning that, man, I'm a germophobe, I don't like kissing and all of that. Let her make the decision before she enters the relationship this is what it is. People have to understand how to communicate about every single thing. I'll give you another funny example. This one actually I really laughed. I laughed. We're a group of women that are having a conversation. I'm telling you, if you want to hear the best stories, just go where there are a group of women and they are discussing about men, and you will laugh until your teeth will almost fall off. The discussion was about a girl that was saying that a man complained that a girl was trying to give him a BJ, and when she was trying to give him a BJ, it was like sandpaper. There was no enjoyment whatsoever. Like, it was like she was trying to scrape the skin off his organ. It was so bad. It was like so you can imagine. There was no way he was not like him. He had to say, oh, but like he was like no, because he was scared. Now that's like it was the funniest thing ever. I laughed. No, he said it. He said it. There was another girl who visited, like she was in the talking stages with this guy for a bit, and then she later decided that okay, let her go and visit him. And when you go and visit, you know that there's a possibility that this might happen. So she went prepared that there's a possibility that something might go down. And then when she got to the house, and they almost started, like before they started, she saw the size of his couple's spongiosum. They almost had a heart attack. She almost had a heart attack. She found an excuse and she ran for her life. So in this particular in this particular scenario, she never went back, according to what I heard. She never went back. So, miscommunication can just cause a behemoth of a problem for something that was just a simple misunderstanding. Some experts will even encourage over communication. There's even advice that you shouldn't go to bed angry. Some couples really abide by this mantra. It does help. There are other couples that need to, expand on how they communicate and all of that. But I can say for every single aspect of the relationship, it's very important to communicate, because communication builds transparency in every aspect of the relationship. It encourages that openness, and it helps because miscommunication can create room for resentment, and resentment can lead to other issues. So, it's good to communicate.
Thank you, Sandra.
Not a problem.
Oh, that's so funny. So busy scheduling can result in couples neglecting to spend quality time together, which is essential for nurturing intimacy. One of my close friends says she and her husband had to take out time away from the kids to spend quality time with themselves because she noticed that they were slowly drifting away.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
question I want to ask you, Sandra: how do individual expectation of intimacy change over time?
We talked about external stressors earlier. So those external stressors can cause issues, over time. It can affect the way that people respond to each other. One thing that I found that is a common thread for people that have a reduction in intimacy, apart from the length of their relationship, is when they start having children, especially for married couples. When they start having children, the attention shifts from just, both of you to actually there are other human beings you're responsible for the whole period of time that they exist until they can be on their own. So it's something that affects people in a way that they now tend to not think about themselves. They think more about the kids. So the idea of how to be intimate when you have other human beings to think about changes, because now you're no longer the focus of attention. So that's something, family life now precedes the individual life, So if you're going on a vacation, you now have to go with the kids. And if you're with the kids, for most women, they think about vacation in terms of a chore. They don't think about it in terms of like they're actually going on a vacation. For some people, individual expectations of intimacy may change when they get older. So old age and the perception of old age can also affect how people view intimacy. So people just feel like, we're not old now. Why should we be doing all these things for young people? Do you understand?
I don't think it's okay. All people are supposed to enjoy life.
Not okay. Why should you pause your life because you're getting older? When the children are out of the house, man, that's when you people should be enjoying your life. And
exactly.
If there was communication and transparency when you were younger, then you won't even need to have the conversation. It should just be something that you're already used to and you just continue, right? Abroad is a little bit easier.
Can't they strike a balance? Sorry,
you
Sandra.
can.
Sorry.
You should strike a balance.
You can strike a balance, right?
You should strike a balance. That's what we're saying. You have to be intentional about your relationship. I know that abroad, a lot of couples, what they do is, especially when they're older, they go on cruises, they travel more, they go and explore the places where they haven't been before, try out new restaurants, spend time together and all of that. They do the things that they forgot to do when the kids were a little bit younger. Now that the kids are out of the house, but you shouldn't wait. You should balance it, as you said. So the perception of old age is something that changes individuals' expectations of intimacy over time. The third is cultural and religious inhibitions. So there was this story I saw on Twitter of an immigration officer who asked to see the passport of a man's wife because she kissed him at the airport. in Nigeria.
Really?
So yes. So the officer felt like there was no way this lady was a Nigerian because we don't do things like this. So that's a cultural inhibition, a cultural perception that's affecting how you can trust me that that man now, because he's as an immigration officer, if he goes back to the house, he won't be doing a PDA with his wife because he feels like that's not something Nigerians do. You get. So this, and for some people it's like Papa is not going to like this. Their papa that they adore in church, they even respect their papa more than they respect their husbands or their wives,
I don't
you know.
understand why.
So these, cultural inhibitions and religious inhibitions, we're not supposed to hold hands in public, or sister in the Lord, brother in the Lord. You're married for God's sake, you're in a relationship for God's sake. I'm not saying that you should go all out and do some rubbish. That's not what I'm preaching here. No. I'm saying that both of you should have a discussion and be on the same page. If that's what both of you understand and it works for you, fine. But don't have one party feeling left out because the other party feels like these cultural or religious inhibitions are affecting the intimacy in the relationship. So that's just my point. And I needed to be clear about that. And for some others, it might be just, when you're growing a little bit older, when you're in your teens and your early 20s or whatever, your attention is on, you just the boy next door or whatever, you're more interested in this. But once you start growing in your career, you start making investments, you're more you're thinking more about, where you want to be when you retire, you're saving, you're investing. Attention might shift away from, just, being intimate with somebody or paying attention to a significant other or the rest. So that might also affect people's expectations of intimacy over time. Yeah. So that's what I think. These four things.
Okay. Now let's talk about the physical aspect.
Yeah.
Changes in physical appearance or health issues may affect one or both partners' self-esteem and confidence. Some couples complain that during the initial stage of their relationship, it's all rosy and nice, their partner is looking dolled up, whatever. But over time, things just change and they don't know why. So my question is, what role does physical affection and appearance play in maintaining intimacy in long-term relationship?
Earlier you asked me a question about what creates the initial spark of intimacy in a relationship. So this is one of it. When you have this idea in your head that somebody needs to fit into a persona, it affects the way that you see them when they don't fit into that particular persona. So what I'll just say about this question is that this question has been flogged so much in a lot of, podcasts and all of that. Things are exciting at the beginning, but it tapers when familiarity starts to happen. It needs to be nurtured, intimacy naturally declines after children, especially with women. It needs to be rekindled.
Yeah.
People have this perception of their head of what beauty is about, and people need to make sure that they're intentional about not just looking at beauty in terms of physical appearance. People change when they get older. It's not just about women. Even men now have pot bellies and all of that. You need to also understand, yes, but people need to be intentional. It's not because you have children that you're not going to take care of yourself. Call your partner sweet names. For women especially, I'm speaking from a woman's perspective. Sex starts before the bedroom. Sound, smells, touch, they all contribute to the mood. So there's no Papa Emeka here. He's your husband before he's the father of the children. So there's nothing like Papa Emeka. Like, look for a sweet name to call your significant other. Care for yourself. Care for yourself. Men are physical, women are auditory. So make sure you're calling your woman sweet names. Tell her she looks beautiful. Make sure you're looking good. Care for yourself, but please don't succumb to emotional or verbal abuse. Nobody should tell you that except you look a certain kind of way, that's when they are going to love you or like you. Is tending towards abuse. Just make sure that you're looking nice. You look, presentable, but don't make it a point of duty to say that somebody has to look a certain way before you can love them. So that's just what I want to say about that.
All right. What strategy can couples use to reignite intimacy and connection in your opinion?
Well, they can openly communicate their needs. So, what new things do you think we should try and the like? They can work together to achieve intimacy. So, everyone should have a role towards the goal. The intimacy should not be one-sided. They should be intentional and committed to decisions. So, actually do all you say you're going to do. And they should be understanding and supportive of each other and not judge each other. So, yeah, so those are the little things that they can do to make sure that, they reignite the intimacy and connection in their relationships. Yeah, I think that will work.
Okay. So, Marissa, people, do you think that intimacy can fade in a long-term relationship? If yes, how can it be reignited, rekindled rather? And if not, what is your secret in keeping it alive? Let me hear your thoughts. I want to know what you think about this topic. Thank you, Sandra, for joining us today on Feeling
You're
Talk.
welcome.
I appreciate you, and we hope to have you back sometime soon. Stay out there
Well, I
this
just want
on
to
this
say
call.
thank you for having me. It was fun. I hope I can come back soon. I'm so happy that I could be here. And if you have any questions, even after this episode, don't forget to drop it on Tammy's social channels and we'll be able to answer the questions. Yeah, so that's it. It was really fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for listening. Take care and show love. Bye bye, my listeners. Ciao.
Bye.